6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Through Black and My Eyes for this Wednesday night Premier League review show. It's been a while, so I thought I'd get the gang back together and do a show. Why not? We've got some familiar faces. We had one that popped in and disappeared. We've got the the craziest broadband Mike in the house. Hopefully he won't go on and off like he normally does. And we've got the other 14 as well. One of the best accounts on Twitter and now on Blue Sky. Got to check them out. There's the link if you want to become a member tonight. So evening all, welcome back to Premier League Show. Please like and subscribe, and the channel is free, so please share it. Adhere to standard community guidelines, keep comments respectful, of course, and enjoy the show. Bottom right-hand corner, if you want to donate, then donation pays for the channel, and then the rest of it goes to charity, because that's what we like to do. And there it is. HS is in the house. Leslie's in the house as well. When the current group stages are completely over Champions League, the point system will reset. Yes, I think so. We'll ask the guys that as well, to be fair. In the new system, not sure, having kept track. I mean, I'm not really kept track to the Champions League because we're not in it. It's a fair shout, isn't it? Hey, Chairs. Hey, Gary. Hey, Jules. And the gang is in the house. Right, I'm going to bring Stevie in first because, Stevie, you're going to be impressed with this. I am in a food coma.
Oh, tell me more.
Oh, mate, honestly, 2 nights ago at work, my friend Clive Fernandez, Indian, got his missus to make a homemade curry.
Oh,
and
proper flavors.
I've never had rice like it.
Yeah, fluffy and light.
Forget what you get in the restaurants. You need to find someone from India and make a homemade proper Indians. Oh, and I've just had the rest of it tonight.
See, that was one of the advantages of growing up in East London. You just have, you grew up with friends from Asia, and you just get that on the way home. Do you want to come in for dinner? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I love it. I never had that growing up. I didn't have an Indians until I was 18.
No way.
Yeah, seriously.
I had an Indian maths tutor, and I think it was every Monday. And I probably ate more than I learned. Let's put it that way.
Brilliant. I love it. Julie's loving the Christmas jumper. Let's bring Mike in. How's Mike doing?
Oh, mate, you all right?
Is the heat not working, mate? You look pretty cold.
It is quite cold in this house, but hey-ho.
He looks like he just robbed a semi-detached house.
Hold on.
Busy night, huh?
Either that, or he's about to go on a Navy SEAL operation, isn't he? He's about to go on a movie.
There you go.
How many alloy wheels did you steal tonight, Mike?
He's not from Liverpool, mate. Come on. What a great start to the show. Evening.
Hello. Hi, guys.
How are you doing?
Oh, mate.
Very good. Very good. I haven't seen you for a while.
Yes, Alan, I know. I'm really sorry about that. I'm buzzing you're on tonight. Now, we'll never know who he supports because he's the other 14. So no one's allowed to ask. It's a secret. But we know it's not one of the top 6.
That's true.
So you can all start making your mind up who it is. I think it's Wolves, personally. But he's not going to say or tell us. Right. Let's get cracking onto this stuff. So the first topic is Liverpool. Are they running away with the league? I have got the league table. Now, they've got a game in hand. They're 4 points ahead of Chelsea. Man City look out of the race for me, but that's a really, really horrible thing to say and a stupid thing to say because when you say things like that, it normally bites you in the backside and comes back to haunt you. Chelsea flying. Arsenal still sort of in it. But if Liverpool win that game in hand and they go 7 points clear of Chelsea, and they go 9 points clear of Arsenal and even further clear of Man City, it's got to be game over. I know it's the Merseyside derby, it's a game in hand, but Steve, it's Liverpool's title this year, isn't it? Or am I jumping the gun? Is it too early to call?
It's always going to be too early to call because we were in a situation a couple of years ago when Arsenal were flying before Christmas, and you remember last year up to November, Tottenham were going to win the league. They were running away with it.
Well, they celebrated like they had won it, hadn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
They won the November Premier League, didn't they?
Yeah. The Nobel Peace Prize. But the difference is, right? The difference is Liverpool are kind of clicking. You know, like they were crying the poor man there for the last couple of years, whereas they have 6 or 7 attacking players that walk onto any other squad and probably team in the league. And that's been the difference now. When the new manager's come in and he's made the changes, it's worked nearly every time, no matter what 3 he's played. And look, Salah looks like he's got a new lease of life. Van Dijk is back. You forget, like, about 9-10 months ago, he had a bad injury. So everything's gone right for the new manager. But I think the new voice has helped them a lot. With regards to Arsenal are not going to lose many games, but they're going to draw a few, and that's what's going to kill them. And we've seen Man City in the past kind of go on a 12-winning game run, which no other team normally does. But I just think this year, with the poor recruitment that's happened over the last kind of 18 months, I don't think they've got that in their locker. The miles are on the clock. They look a little bit jaded and tired. And the new players that they brought in are just not up to scratch. So it's Liverpool's to lose, more or less. You know, if they don't mess it up, if there's no Slippy G incidents, you know, that they could have it won by March, April.
There's no actual diehard Liverpool fan in the Liverpool team, unless Curtis Jones is. But I don't know I know he came through their youth team, but there's no local to slip up, is there?
We'll throw Trent in there. He might slip.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about Trent. To be fair, Mike. I mean, Salah was mentioned there. Great talking point for Liverpool this season. I mean, last season he really wasn't the player that we expected. I mean, if we look at his form this season, he's got a 7.94 SOFA score, which is unbelievable. Nearly an 8 every single game. I know he doesn't get an 8 every single game, but it averages out like that. 14 starts, 14 games, 13 goals. You know, he's been in the team of the week 5 times. He's got 8 assists as well. So that's 21 goal contributions already this season. And is he the reason why Liverpool are now purring because he's back on form?
I think there is some of that to it. Yeah, without a doubt. He's ticking, but I think there's more to them than that. They got a bit of metal about them this time. Defensively, they seem a bit more solid than they were last year. So I think all round they're a better proposition this year than they've been for a while. Whether they are running away with it is another thing altogether, because you've still got teams like they've got to play Chelsea, Man City again, Arsenal. That, you know, if they beat those teams, then yes. But I mean, Chelsea are playing so well at the moment, phenomenal, and you can see them being the sort of biggest threats to Liverpool emerging over the next few weeks. So I think when they play those teams, you'll get a clear indication.
Sorry, someone's just sent me a message and I just can't stop laughing at it. Stevie, I honestly thought you were going to buy this player in January before we're going on about, but Callum Wilson is injured again.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What happened to him now? Did he slip down the milk aisle?
Must have hamstring injury. She must have slipped while he was out shopping.
Yeah, he was watching Holby City and got injured again.
I'm not surprised. Do you know what I mean? It was Jules who sent it, so I had a look straight away. And as soon as I read it, I was just like, oh.
Honestly, he's out of contract in the summer, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him done.
I thought we were going to offload him to use in January if he stayed fit because of the Antonio situation. But there you go. That's fostered all those plans. But anyway, back to Mo Salah. So Mo Salah, 21 goal assists this season, 28 last season. He's only 7 behind last season. So that just backs up everything about how well he's playing, doesn't it, Mike? And you are right. They have, you know, other players have stepped up. I mean, Van Dijk looks better than what he did last season.
Yeah.
Trent's been used better. Oh, Curtis Jones looks the
yeah,
right player, doesn't he? McAllister.
Yeah, McAllister in the middle. You know, it's just there's a lot about them this year that looks solid and looks proper title contenders. So yeah, of course they're in a. I think Steve hit the nail on the head. It's theirs to lose, and you know, if they can put those teams to bed like Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, then there's no reason why they don't go on to win that.
I love it. Alan, what's your thoughts on Liverpool this season?
Yeah, I think obviously they're doing really well, but I think it's a little bit too early to call it just because there's a lot of the season left to go, and therefore a lot of things can still happen. So, you know, injury to Salah, injury to Van Dijk, other teams work out little tweaks that they've made since Slot has come in. You know, things can happen. You know, they may well go on and win it, but there's also scenarios where you can see that they slip up in 2 or 3 games and it all gets very edgy, and anything can happen then. So, you know, maybe, but maybe not.
It's a tough one because, I mean, you look at Man City now and Rodri's going to be out for the season. They look and remind me of what Newcastle are at the moment, very hit and miss. You know, they play well one week, don't play well the next week. They've lost 4 games in a trot they did, which is Pep's, I think, only done once in his whole career, which was at Bayern in 2019, if I'm right.
Well, it might not be City, though, because as Mike said, Chelsea's really good. And, you know,
but Chelsea, again, they shoot themselves in the foot in a lot of games. They haven't got it solidly in defence yet. Yes, they're scoring goals. I think they're an injury away, a Cole Palmer injury away, I should say, of becoming an average team again. And I know
we'll see tonight. They're in the Conference League with their 3rd team. You know what I mean?
They've done that well, though, haven't they? I mean, they've spent 1.2 billion, by the way, which is just absolutely crazy. I don't know how any team can do that and get away with it.
It's always an advantage when you're pushing for the title or Champions League when you don't have Champions League football.
Yes.
You know, and that's what's happening to them at the moment. You know, you see it, and we've seen it again. Kind of medium-sized clubs, like West Ham, like I know Villa have won the European Cup, and they see themselves as a big club, and they're doing really well without the right investment. You saw it with Newcastle a season ago. It's very hard to maintain that standard without continuous investment. And like I said, Chelsea at 1.2 billion in the bank. They go with their kind of B/C team to the Conference League. You know, it's easy for them. They come back, and then all their main I won't say main 11, but their main 16 or 17 first team players are all fresh and ready to go.
Yeah, they're not even travelling to Kazakhstan. Their first 11 for the weekend aren't even travelling to Kazakhstan.
Yeah, there you go. So it's not like they're in Europe, is it? It's they're literally their Premier League side is just playing one game a week, which is what you want. You want to be fresh. Yeah. I mean, if we look at the table again as well, there's also some interesting names in it. Brentford 9th, unbelievable. Forest 5th. Villa have only just crept back into the top 6 because they were hovering between 10 and 12th until they had a couple of wins. And that's all it takes for this table at the moment, how tight it is. It takes a couple of wins, everybody else to falter like they're doing. And we've got surprises, Bournemouth, Fulham. You know, out of all those names, you wouldn't, I mean, Brentford are the only one I think would, you know, because they're an established Premier League club. I would think, yeah, they've got a chance of getting in the top 10, but I wouldn't have put Bournemouth anywhere near where they are. I wouldn't have put Fulham in the top 10. I wouldn't have put Forest 5th at all. So, Alan, is this credit to the new managers coming in and working well? I mean, Thomas Frank's obviously been there a little while and he's fantastic. And their home form, I think they've got 22 points at home out of 23.
Yeah, I would direct you though to the baseline tracker table that we publish every week.
Yes,
and it's interesting to see that, you know, I don't know if we're coming on to Brentford now, but Brentford, yes, they've done really well at home, but that's because they haven't yet played a Big Six team at home. So their fixture program has been really unusual. So yeah, they're actually on -1 on the baseline tracker because they dropped 2 points at home and only gained 1 away. So they're -1 overall, and so their fixture program has been really unusual. So everybody's talking about their home form is wildly better than their away form, but that's because their home fixtures have been a lot easier than their away fixtures.
The one thing I'll point out there, though, is that Brentford have always had a very, very good home record, though.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean? So even though they haven't played the big teams yet, the big teams always struggle when they go there. So this is just, for me, them just cementing how good they are at home. I mean, you look at the other big teams who have had smaller teams at home and they haven't been able to put them away, but Brentford have.
Oh yeah, it's definitely an outlier in terms of how their fixtures have gone. But part of that story is the fact that their fixtures have been very unbalanced so far this year.
I agree with that. Someone has pointed that out to me, but I've always said I think Brentford's home form is incredible regardless. I'm trying to find the baseline tracker. It's a really good table. I'm scrolling through everything because even Newcastle are quite high on the baseline tracker, but we're down in 12th. Yeah. So it just shows you sometimes.
It's pinned on our Blue Sky account.
I'm on Twitter at the moment.
If you look at that, look at 10th to 4th. You know, I'm not a mathematician. Yeah. You know, I did have maths grinds back in the day.
It's four points, mate.
4 points. Do you know what I mean? Like things can change so quickly, and some of what you find is every season there's a kind of a surprise package, for want of a better terminology. And the thing with especially with Fulham and Brentford is there's great cohesion there. They've had the same manager for a number of seasons, so you know they've all bought into it. But what will happen is because they might have a smaller squad, normally teams like that, and I'd include West Ham with that over the last few years. You know, you'd have a good start or a good finish to the season, and you'd inevitably be pushing for kind of 8th to 10th. So even though they've had brilliant starts, they're still only 9th and 10th, and I mean that with the greatest respect because, look, like I said, they're still only 4 points off top 4. But you know, if you look at if you were to put money on, you know, which two teams from 5th to 10th would finish, 5th and 6th, you would probably say right, Villa and maybe Brighton will probably finish the stronger. You know, Forest could be the surprise package because, you know, they'll go out and invest again in January if they're allowed to do so with regards to the new rules. So it's a new one, but like, you know, fresh ideas with Brighton and Bournemouth. You know, it's made very exciting. Like Forest surprised us all. We thought, you know, I thought they'd struggle again, but, you know, but Nuno's really got a tune out of them, and fair play to them.
Chris Wood's on fine form.
Yeah, that's all you want. If you want your striker, your main number 9, especially how they play, if he's scoring goals, like we could all do with him. You know, every team from 5th down, maybe not Villa, but, you know, all them teams could do with Chris Wood on fire. But, you know, you have to hand it to the manager. He's got the best out of him.
The other thing I want to point out with the baseline tracker as well, it just shows you how well Forest and Fulham are doing, and Brentford, when you look at it, -1, +2, and only +4 for Forest. So they're picking up points against teams they were unlikely to pick up points against. So that's very interesting as well. I mean, top of the piles, Bournemouth have beat the teams around them. Brighton have beaten the teams around them. Newcastle have got +11. Bournemouth's at top of the pile of that one, and that's why they're 8th. I mean, they've got good home form again as well, haven't they, Bournemouth? Very hard place to go and win. They beat Arsenal at Bournemouth, didn't they?
Yeah, Brighton's an interesting one at the moment because they can't get points for love nor money against the bottom teams, but they're beating all the top teams, which is
that's the Newcastle illness. That. I mean, Michael will talk about that quite a bit about Brighton. I mean, these are absolutely fantastic when you're playing against the bigger teams. The players stand up and be accounted for. But like what happened with Newcastle against Liverpool, and then we went away and got beat comfortably, and we never really turned up at Brentford. Well, especially in the second half. And you're the kind of same at Brighton, aren't you?
Yeah, it's got a bit of since Wolves at home when we were 2-0 up and they come back and drew 2-2 in the last 10 minutes. It's kind of a bit of nervousness has crept into that game. You can see it. We were totally comfortable at the weekend till about the 85th minute. And then Jamie Vardy, great finish, but a bit of a lucky deflection to him, but absolutely great finish. And then we kind of shot ourselves in the foot from the manager to the players. So the manager brings on a defensive player to try and shut the shop up, which basically kept us on the back foot. And then obviously Igor tries to dribble out past about 4 or 5 players and gives it away. So, but I think you can against those teams you can sense that nervousness creeping in, whereas against top teams there isn't that. There's not the same kind of expectation from our fan base. We're expecting to beat those teams. The top teams we're less of an expectation there. So when we played Man City, the crowd just got behind the team and just sort of dragged them over that line, and we got that victory. But yeah, you can sense that nervousness, and I mean we've got Palace on the weekend, which is like massive for us. That's like our sort of main fixture, and it's not a derby, it's a rivalry. I hate it being called a derby. It's not. It's a rivalry, but it's a rivalry with history, and it's if the same thing happens, you can really the crowd will get tense, and you can see that sort of creeping onto the pitch. So that's my worry with those sort of games going forward. If we can get that sort of like we did against Newcastle when we should have got hammered, but we managed to eke out that one, the 1-0. If we can do that again, it'll sort of breed confidence, and we can take that on.
Get a solid defence.
With the exception of Newcastle, it looks as though Brighton's record when they go behind is much better than their record than when they go in front.
Yeah,
which is a bit not that they necessarily want to go behind, I guess. But,
no.
It's a good thing to be able to have though the bounce back ability where a lot of clubs don't have that. It's nice to have it, but you don't, as I say, you don't really want to be going behind.
Well, I mean, on the other side of that, our squad is starting. We're getting players back. We had like quite a horrific injury list, and we now start getting players back. So O'Reilly, when he gets more games, Minter's just come back in the side. Ferguson's starting to get a few minutes. So Dunk's come back in. So we start getting those players back, and then hopefully that'll have an effect as well.
I agree. We'll stick with Brighton at the moment because I want to talk about Thomas Frank. I think he's a quality manager. Right? If we didn't get Eddie Howe when we got took over, I said Thomas Frank should be our next manager. He's doing wonders. I mean, they sold Ivan Toney. Everyone thought that'll be it for Brentford, and then Wissa and Mbeumo step up, and they've obviously got that new lad come in as well. And nothing seems to have changed with Brentford. They still keep on churning out the results. They still play the same way. They play excellent football. I'm going to come to you, Stevie, because you're desperate for a manager, or are you? I mean, Thomas Frank's got to be in the line for a big job soon, hasn't he?
He has, but the thing is, like he's had time. You can tell he's in charge. He's bringing in the players he wants. Even that stuff last year when Tony was number one, when he did get his ban, Frank, he was a class act all the way through that. He managed him coming back, even though Tony was more or less twerking for anyone in the window to come and get him. He managed that situation perfectly. He didn't hang Tony out to dry either, but he kept his dignity and tried to make it about the team. And then you see when Tony leaves, the cohesion was already there, like I've mentioned before. But now the team spirit has gone up a notch because you don't have a greedy wannabe getaway trying to maybe make noise and think he's too big for the club. So Frank brings in players, and there's been a couple of clubs like that over the years that just get a right manager who brings in. I remember Mick McCarthy when he was with Wolves. You get the right manager at the right time who brings in the right players that he needs, the right characters, and he plays them in the right position, and then voila, what you get, you like you had your nice curry, you get the perfect blend of ingredients, lads.
Look at Leicester.
That's what happens, and it's beautiful.
Leicester winning the Premier League was just everything just fitted in, didn't it?
Just click. Now we're not saying Brentford are going to win the Premier League, but they've got a nice ground, good atmosphere, well-run club. Are they an injury away from a relegation fight? No. Do you know what I mean? That's they're not relying on one guy. Like you said, Tony's gone 2 guys up front, step up, goals, assists every game. If they don't play well, they give 100% everything, and that's all you can ask. And you can see that coming from the manager. If another club are looking at him, what's the expectation going to be, or you know, who would potentially look at him. It's very hard now. It's like if you want to buy a good Premier League player, it's going to cost you 100 million. If you want to get a good manager that's managing another Premier League team, the conversation is going to be crazy, and teams are just not going to do it. So I think they're safe with him for the moment. It's going to be up to him down the line if he wants to leave. And I don't think he's that type of person, because he's asking the players to buy into something, and I think he's too honest to run around in a year or two's time and look to move. But things change. You remember Huddersfield a couple of years ago, that German guy, and they were doing great and they were flying and everyone was happy.
Wasn't it?
Wagner, that was it. Yeah, I think he went to Wolfsburg after that. I'm not sure where he is now. Actually,
He went through Norwich City and then got sacked from there.
Norwich.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, you know, he had everything clicking in the right direction, going in the right direction, getting the small club up and that. So, you know, but yeah, Frank is a lot more experience in that with regards to Premier League. So I think they're a great manager. They'll keep him. I don't think he'll move anywhere. And if they did, it would have to be a Newcastle or someone like that. Or if Villa ever needed another manager down the line, if things didn't work out, that's the type of kind of team that will go after him. Other than that, he'd only be moving laterally.
Yeah, that's true. I'm glad you mentioned compensation, because that brings us on to the next topic. Dan Ashworth.
Ooh, I bet you're happy.
The man spent more time in his garden than he did at Old Trafford. But on a serious note, though, and I'm going to come to you, Mike, what the hell is going on at Man United? I mean, the Man United fans must be sick to the back teeth for what's happening after having all those glory years under Sir Alex Ferguson. And then now watching manager after manager come in, get backed, wrong players being bought, Old Trafford falling down. It's like a waterfall in there when it rains. They are becoming a bit of a laughing stock, aren't they? Even though they're ahead of us in the league, which is crazy, because I don't know how they are. But, I mean, what is going on?
I have no idea. It's like one reset after another, isn't it? Because Ashworth was as we know, Ashworth is mainly about pathways. He's about bringing youth players into that first team system eventually, and rebuilding your academy team up. And that's what he did at Brighton. But I just wonder whether it was to do with the manager selection. I don't know. I'm not privy to that information, but whether he wasn't involved in that and he felt a bit out of that process, I don't know, because he's sort of managers, the Graham Potter, the Southgates, those sort of managers who buy into what he wants to do, which is getting sort of talent from around England and around the world and bringing them in and eventually getting them into your team, and then maybe flipping them on like we do for a big fee, or they become established stars for that. So I don't know what the ins and outs. He obviously he's had a falling out with Radcliffe. That's what it seemed to be. But it's very odd at Man United. I don't know. I always thought in the summer players like Rashford and those sort of players, Luke Shaw, should have been moved on anyway. And there seems to be a stagnation of certain players there that maybe need to be moved on. A sort of every team needs to freshen up their squad to get new players in, and it doesn't. They've not really done that to any sort of real effect. And
See, I like Rashford.
I don't know. It just seems to the outside. I don't know. Maybe that long term something sort of be revealed to us, but short term it seems to be sort of no real cohesive plan going on with them. But it's quite funny with Ashworth, because he obviously left us for you, left you to them, and it's like, what the hell's the man? I mean, to be fair to him, he probably doesn't have to work again because all the compensation he's getting out of the playoffs. So, it's like a Graham Potter, isn't it? It's that sort of.
I wonder how much he's cost Newcastle and Man United, because obviously we got him early from you, and you had to do gardening leave. Yeah. And then Man United came in and stole him. I think, depending on what tabloid you read, 3 million, 5 million, 10 million. But then he ends up on gardening leave for 6 months and working for 5 months. It's crazy. And apparently the tabloids have said that there was a falling out because he wanted an English manager. And actually he wanted Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe was one of the ones that he wanted, which I think is crazy because of all the newspaper articles where Eddie Howe and Dan Ashworth don't get on. So there you go. Crazy. And then this has come out saying that apparently Arsenal are now sniffing around him.
Yeah.
Mental, absolutely mental. But Alan, I'll come to you on this one as well, because Jim Ratcliffe is come in and he's stripping Man United like Mike Ashley stripped Newcastle United. He's cancelling Christmas parties. He's stripping the staff down to the bare minimum. He's not spending on the stadium to improve it. He wants the taxpayers to pay for the stadium. Apparently, I don't know if that's probably still not a thing anymore. But you know, it feels like the biggest club in the country, because they are. Let's face it. They, you know, when it comes to following and when it comes to what they've won in the Premier League, they are the biggest club in the UK. They're being run like Poundland.
Yeah, I think so. Ashworth, I think it's for everything that Mike said makes sense in terms of, you know, Ashworth was in the right place at Brighton in terms of what his skill set is and the strategy. But in both of his moves, he thought he was going to something that he turned out he wasn't. When he went to Newcastle, he thought he was going to a place where he could implement his strategy much, much quicker, because they would have unlimited funds and whatever, which, as we now know, it turns out no matter how much money you've got in your pocket, you can only spend as much of it as you're allowed to.
Well, it depends how you look at it. I'm very quick to say this, because these pathways for younger players. If your players if you're buying players under the age of 18, it doesn't count towards PSR. So surely Ashworth has got an open checkbook to do what he wants with the younger generation. It's the players that go into the first team squad, 18 and above. That's where PSL comes in. So surely
maybe he got confused himself about what. Maybe he got confused himself about. He saw the Newcastle opportunity as something which was something which it turned out not to be when he got there. So that all went pear-shaped because of that. And exactly the same thing has happened at Man United. He thought he'd be going to, as you say, the biggest club in the country, and therefore he'd be able to implement his strategy with a lot more now, you know, revenue behind it. And he's got there and found that again, what his ideas aren't being implemented because it's being run by a guy that's used to running a corporate, not used to running a football club. And so, you know, so once again, he's found himself in a place that wasn't what he thought it was going to be. So, you know, I saw the message on the bottom said he might be going to Arsenal, but, you know, whether that will work out or not is another question.
Well, exactly. He seems to be, I mean, I'd say, is the grass greener? He was at Brighton, everything was running smoothly. You know, he was there for a good few years. The players he was able to bring in, and Mike told me about players 2 years before they even broke into the first team, and then they end up going to Chelsea for 100 million. I'm surprised Chelsea haven't gone in for Dan Ashworth, because they keep on nicking all the players that he brought into the Premier League. So why not get him in? Crazy. Steve, your thoughts on Man United? Obviously, we all let's get this right. We all hate Man United, but
look, it's hard to have sympathy because, you know, they just went around spanking all of us for 15, 20 years. You know what I mean? But at the same time, there's such a heritage there, and you know, we'll go back to the Blazer days and all that. They always had like really good youth team. Always had 2 or 3 ready to come through, no matter what was happening. Maybe Ashworth was brought in to bring that kind of that kind of train of youth and talent, you know, into the first team. But all I can think of is, and I go back to West Ham and how our director of football manages, and you know, the lack of cohesion with Moyes. Moyes wanted a certain player, Tim Steidl wants a different player, and maybe all I can think of is maybe there's a clash there with the new manager with the money. Now I know he hasn't been in charge, he hasn't been at the club that long. But if you look at the money that was wasted in the summertime, like if someone's in charge of your money and they do that, like he should have been sacked months ago. If you just put it in there, but you know the way the majority shareholder is running the club now, you know there's no you can't turn around and, you know, let go 250 staff, which they have, and then pay stupid amounts of money on managers and bang average players, giving them stupid contracts for huge money, and then, you know, have a director of football and no one getting on or no one being in the same direction. Now, the owner can't, he shouldn't have any say. He should just let them do it. But all I can think of is that they don't have the same kind of goals, or maybe they have the same goals and ambitions, but they don't want to go about it the same way. Like Mike said, it's a lot different, you know, building a team, you know, on a budget than being given a load of money and then spending it. You look at what Pep's done the last 18 months and how much he spent on a specific amount of players and how poor the return has been. It's nearly a hindrance to some organizations to have lots of money because, number one, the seller sees you coming a mile away and everything goes up, 20-30%. That's every Premier League club around. And when they go to do business in Europe, the price goes up. When Man United come to town, there's another 10 million thrown on, 50 million thrown on every single player. And has the return been good enough? No, it hasn't. Does he deserve to lose his job just from the summer recruitment? In my opinion, yes, but it depends what he was asked to do. We don't know what he was asked to do. We don't know what Ten Hag were them players. Ten Hag, did he want them, or was it a decision that was made by the technical director / director of football that these were the players that he had to work with? So we don't know what's going on in the background. But to be fair, like they've spent a lot of money. You were gutted when he was leaving Newcastle, but look, he's got he got his comeuppance, and like you said, the grass isn't always greener.
Exactly. I mean, we were just gutted because we thought we had a settled backroom staff. We thought we were going in the right direction, and obviously the last two windows have been absolutely atrocious for us. And that's all down to all this saga that's been going on. Leslie, this is great timing. Apparently the ref has just been clattered in the City game, so let's talk about David Coote. He got clattered in another way, didn't he? David Coote. It's hard to feel sorry for him, but I do feel a little bit sorry for him because he said what everyone else thinks at the time, because Jurgen Klopp had overstayed his welcome in the Premier League for me. He was starting to become a CUNT. I love Jurgen Klopp when he first came into the Premier League. I wanted him as a Newcastle manager. I know it was never going to happen, but I thought he was brilliant for our league. And then the last couple of years, I just think his arrogance and the way he spoke, he let himself down quite a lot. And all he said is a derogatory term, hasn't he, Alan? He's not fixed a game. We don't know, but obviously that's what it feels like. It feels like he's been caught by someone videoing him doing something very stupid. He said something a little bit stupid that you probably shouldn't say on camera, and he's been massively punished for it.
I hope he's being looked after.
Yes, exactly. This is the thing. Yeah.
In that video, he looked like he was on something, and
we all definitely know he was on something.
Yeah. And there's some of the other stories about him. I think that the guy has problems and needs leaving alone now, probably. And I hope somebody's looking after him.
Yeah, you would hope.
I mean, the idea that he commented about a particular team and the inference from that is that therefore he's got some sort of issue with that team and that's going to impact things or whatever. I think there's a lot of that's missing the point. There's lots of talk about referees. Do they support a particular club? Do they dislike a particular club? Those sorts of things, hopefully any of us would be professional in a situation where we're doing a job. Yeah. And if we don't like something, but we'd still be professional about it. Mm. I think Gary O'Neill was onto something with his comment about unconscious bias, because all those things about if you support a team, that's conscious bias, and you can overcome that. Unconscious bias is a very different thing. And I think Gary O'Neill being reprimanded for saying something which is completely obvious is not right. Yeah. Because unconscious bias is a well-known psychological state. It's a well-known psychological phenomenon. And it actually affects you because you're not aware of it. And the most classic unconscious bias, given we're the other 14, so just to say, one example of unconscious bias is that you're biased towards an expected outcome. So this affects people in job interviews and that sort of thing. So the expected outcome in a game of football is that the bigger team will win. And sometimes, the referees or the officials or whatever unconsciously have a thought that if there's a 50-50 decision, it'll go to the bigger team because unconsciously they think that's the outcome that's going to happen anyway.
Yeah,
so that's
interesting. That I see that in yellow cards a lot with the likes of Gordon, Roy Keane back in the day. You see Roy Keane going for a tackle. He might have just been a little bit late, but referee straight away, that's a yellow card. It's Roy Keane.
Yeah, you have an anticipation of what's going to based on players' reputations or whatever sometimes. But certainly You know, we've always talked about, you know, for as long as I've been watching football, some referees are homers, they say. Some referees always favour the home team in the 50-50 decisions.
The crowd on the back.
There's an unconscious bias really deep down, which they wouldn't even be aware of if you asked them. But the home team has an advantage in a football match. Yeah. So, you know, whenever, and it's not the big decisions that it affects. It's the, who did it come off last for a throw-in? If it's a 50-50, I'm not quite sure. We'll give it to the team that's got momentum, or we'll give it to the team that's at home, or we'll give it to the big team because we expect them to do well anyway, don't we?
Yeah, we'll give it to the team that's got 52,000 fans behind it.
Well, I think it's a topic worth discussing. I think Gary O'Neill saying something like, "Oh, unconscious bias might be an issue." It shouldn't be slacked down. It should open a debate.
No, it shouldn't be. It should, yeah. You're right. Absolutely right. And this is it. Players and managers can't say what they really want to say, can they? You know, could you imagine if we were back in the world back in the 1980s, 70s, 60s, when managers and players could say what the hell they wanted? You know, and we need a bit of that again. We need a bit of common sense, which we don't have. Steve, do you think he deserves to be completely sacked, or do you think he should have been probably gone on holiday for a year and got his act cleaned up and given an opportunity to redeem himself?
It's hard. There's no real coming back from something like that. It depends why he was fired for. Was he fired for allegedly taking substances, illegal substances, or was he fired because he was slagging off Jurgen Klopp?
But there's no drug testing on referees, so you can't really fire him for
That's
illegal.
exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So, you know, is he guilty from a picture or what's happening? Because, like, if you remember a few years ago, Rio Ferdinand missed drugs test on purpose and got away with it. Got a slap on the wrist. I think he got a couple of game ban, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, he got more than 9 months, didn't he?
Yeah. But, like, see, that's the thing, you know, and he came back and he had a great career, blah, blah, blah. Why is it okay for one and not another? That's just my point. We we're all equal at the end of the day in this 2024. So, you know, could he have been given another chance? Yes. Could they have made a big statement by backing him and looking after him? You know, making a bit of a story out of it and turning him around and maybe using him at VAR or whatever. At that type of level, maybe there was empathy there for the man. But it's like anything. There's certain big teams in our league. Most of them wear red, and they get the big decisions, like we just said there, about unconsciousness. And they have been for years because they're the bread and butter for the Premier League. They're the ones that make the money for them, you know, in the Far East and Asia. They're the ones that sell the rights. They're the ones that are, you know, people buying jerseys all around Asia and all around the world. So are the Premier League, are the FA always going to look after them teams? Yes, they are. And they've been doing it for years. And they've made sure they've won and stood at the top. Now, even with VAR coming in, we all thought it was going to level the playing field. But if anything, you know, they're getting penalties for little touches now and pushes that, you know, oh, I've clipped your ankle or I've stood on your foot. Oh, sorry. You know, and even a few times a follow-through kick is turned into yellow cards. So all these things kind of add up to it. If Coote had said that about Thomas Frank or, you know, about another manager, you know, the Ipswich manager, blah, 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 he'd still be working now.
Yeah. Probably, you're probably right. Well, you could be right.
Taking away the
take away the big six.
Exactly. So yeah, it all depends on why he's been acting. Like, what is the reason? You know, deep down, or was this an excuse? Did they know he was a bit of a wrong, and then they were trying to get rid of him, and then that's why it was leaked? Did they set it up?
Possibly.
We don't know. That's a possibility. That could have happened. Like, we don't know what these people are capable of. So
this is the one that got me. This one. He was organising a drug party apparently before a Champions League game. Now, if that is true, then you know there's something really wrong with the lad, and he's obviously got an addiction that needs to be managed. He needs help. You know, we do hope he does get it, because no one likes to see that. I've seen it happen with someone before.
High stressful jobs can do that to normal folk. Do you know what I mean? I've seen people like in high banking jobs, and they've become addict, and it's been very hard for them because the pressure is so intense all the time. I'm not making excuses. I'm just giving possible reason why he's gone down that path, and like that then. You know, his mood swings is going to be a bit of a roller coaster. You can see on that, like he's in that video, he's drunk. That's not a man that's high. Like he's really drunk. Like he's had a lot of alcohol that day, and he looks out of it. Like, and you know, he's saying stupid, he's slurring, and he's mumbling away. I personally think he's been rightly set up. Are you telling me them guys that made that video didn't get money for it? Please.
Well, they've certainly got a lot of clicks for it, haven't they? So that ends up being money and all this sort of stuff.
They've sold that to the Sun or Mirror, one of them, and then they've leaked it and to X, Y, and Z. They're all making money on it. I don't know. There's a lot more to this than we'll ever know, unfortunately. Yeah. But you know, he's gone now, and that's the unfortunate thing for him.
Yeah, Mike, it makes you wonder how many other referees are sort of wrongins.
There's probably a few. I've seen a few at the Amex.
I've seen a few in the VAR room as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the PGMOL statement did say that his mental well-being was their main concern. So from the tone that they were saying, I suggest that they are going to help him. That's kind of what I got the gist of that. We don't know the full extent of what he's done, what he's been up to be fair. And I think, rightly or wrongly, there's an expectation that referees should be a bit whiter than footballers. You know, with footballers, we kind of got a sense of there's bad behaviour. It goes on. We know that they go out, they drink, they do stupid things. But with referees, we've never had this before. It's the first one, really. Why he's still refereeing? That's this has come out. You know, we've heard stories when referees have retired, and Mark Clattenburg said, you know, that he's done stuff when he was refereeing. But I think right, like I say, rightly or wrongly, there's an expectation that referees need to be a bit above what he was, and I think that's why he's gone. And like I say, I think the tone of their statement was they were going to support him. I hope that's true, and they do, and he does get the help, because the way the press have gone at him and everyone is just disgraceful. Really, it's over the top and just needless. You know, the guy needs to now be able to get on and rebuild whatever he can out of his life, really, after what's gone on.
Mike, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
His couch and your couch are very similar. That's all I'm saying.
David, I told you.
Hey.
David, I told you not to film in my house.
What's been going on in your gaff?
Got the mirror behind her.
That's a double agent.
Yes, all those dodgy decisions at the Amex are all coming back to haunt them now, aren't they? I mean, referees, I mean, I believe they're all professionally paid. The PGMLO are paid by the Premier League to have referees. They're a separate governing body. Do we now need another governing body to come in and potentially rival the PGMLO and have another set of referees and really challenge them and say, right, well, if your referees aren't up to the standard, we've got these referees here who will be happy to take $100,000 a year and do a better job? Do we think it's time for them to be, if it's not going to be another governing body coming in to challenge them, then should they start getting fined for poor performances? Because they get paid.
My view is that VAR should be independent from the referees that referee on a Saturday, because you see VAR and when they're making decisions, there's certain referees that they never ever overrule because they're experienced and they've been doing it for a lot longer. And then these are the same referees that are going to go out the next week and referee and have the same referees looking at them and scrutinising what they do. So I think VAR, the people in the VAR, if we're going to keep VAR, which it looks like we will, they should be independent of those referees and you know, maybe retired footballers and referees or coaches, whatever, someone who sees the game a little bit differently. But it's clear that, in my mind, the standard refereeing seems to have dropped this year quite a lot. There's been a lot of real common sense taken out of the game. We go back to like Declan Rice incident with us, that just, to me, just smacked of common sense going out of that. We had one with Baliba when he got second booking. That just, you know, it's just like the referees just seem to I don't know whether it's a laziness, whether they think VAR are going to look at the decisions we make and they're just going to do decisions for us. I think there's some of that. But I also think the people in the VAR are thinking, well, I'm out there, and it could be an unconscious thing like we've just been talking about, but they're thinking I'm going to go out and referee, you know, tomorrow, and these people are going to be looking at my game. And I think it's got to affect you. It's got to be, you know, thinking, for instance, when someone goes over to the screen, we know 99% of the time they're going to overturn the decision that they're given, because rightly or wrongly, they're thinking that referee in the box has seen something I haven't. And there's a pressure then on them to do that. So I think, was it independent, it would be a totally different process and a totally different scenario a lot of the time in there. But that's just my personal thought. I don't know what the rest of you think.
I like that idea, and Stevie's idea that the referees should be referees only, shouldn't be on VAR duty ever. There should just be referees, and then there should be a trained staff to be VAR specialists, because it is different watching the game on TV than it is in person, because referees only get one viewpoint. They only get one shot at making the right decision, and sometimes they're not in the right place at the right time. But then all referees in the studios and the seats, have they played the game at any standard? Did they know what a bad challenge looks like on TV, on all the angles? And should former players be in there, like you mentioned? I mean, I can't see big Premier League players going into VAR rooms and doing that job. They've made too much money. You'll be looking at potentially League One, League Two players, won't you, who will be like up for that kind of job to boost their coffers up, I suppose. But it's an interesting one. Alan, what do you make of that? Would you like to see a separate?
I think if you're going to have VAR the way it is, then I always thought that would be a good idea to not have the same set of referees policing the referees, if you like. So I agree with that. But I've always said, I've been saying for ages that unless the referee on the field is completely unsighted, for any judgment calls, the original referee decision should be the one you go with. Now the referee himself could say, I didn't see it, somebody was in the way, I was looking the other way, whatever. Then he should be able to ask for VAR for an opinion, maybe.
Yes.
But if he's seen it, his reaction at the time should be the one you go with, because by the way, that's how football's been refereed for 130 years.
Yeah, true.
So
unless it's clear and obvious that he's made a mistake, I suppose is the way.
Well, so I've got an issue with that phrase as well, because that in itself is a judgment call. So if you're looking at a judgment call that's happened on the field, whether or not the error is clear and obvious is also a judgment call. So the person in the VAR box is making a judgment on whether or how clear and obvious it is, because there's no marks out of 10 for clear and obviousness, and say if it's over 8, then all of that's nonsense. So you're taking a judgment call and then you're overlaying it with another judgment call, which is all just nonsense. So don't do it. VAR should only be there if the referee was completely unsighted, or you're talking about a matter of absolute fact, maybe. So, but then
like he misses a handball or something, it's right in front of him.
You'd only get VAR calls once every 5 games, and then they'd say they didn't justify all the investment and all the kits to make it happen. But
I agree. Like we saw in the World Cup, the new VAR for offside, it just worked perfect and really quick, and the line was there, and it was black and white.
Semi-automated offside. I can't believe the Premier League still hasn't brought it in. It's doing my head.
And then you have a situation. What does my head in is VAR calling back. That's not a yellow. That's a red. It should be the referee's sitting there. When you slow it down, everything's going to look worse. It's a contact sport.
Freeze
the ref
frame
is in the middle of it.
He's
2 foot. He's 6 foot away from it. He's 10 foot away from it. He can see if the other player meant it, if there was intent there. So you need to get rid of that. VAR should just be looking after offside. The ref should be calling penalties. It's got a situation now where anyone falls down, they're waving. I think each team should have 2 calls that they get to review two potential
like in
penalties.
cricket.
Exactly, or American basketball or whatever, American football or whatever, and they get 2 of them and they get to call, and that takes away all this crap You know, as well as that, the referees need to be paid more because you're going to get better, more intelligent players. There's a reason judges are on so much money. There's a reason solicitors are on so much money, because they're pretty clever people, you know what I mean? And they can make big judgments when it matters and when the crunch time is there in front of them. So that's my kind of like, it can be easily cleaned up, because it's now everything like, oh, there's a fella attack. So what if it should have been a red card? It wasn't. It's just a yellow. He's still on a yellow. It's not, you know, we're trying to cheat. We're trying to cheat ourselves out of 11 against 11 proper football just to win a game, when we all just want to watch proper football. Two teams going at it. We're trying to cheat, trying to get a penalty and win the game 1-0 and get a player sent off. That's not what we grew up playing football or watching football for. You know, we play it because we want the excitement, end to end. The best games are the ones you don't even know who's reffing.
Yeah, winning at all costs, unfortunately, is a thing now, isn't it? That's the problem. What was it? Some good ideas in the chat. Some Ragatoni said maybe the referees should swap countries. So the English go to the Spain go to Germany, Germany comes to England, and you move them around so they all get a different perspective of what it's like to referee in different leagues. And
Baz, you know what it's like though when you've been in the Champions League, you've seen the games. It's very frustrating watching foreign referees.
But there's different rules to the Champions League than there is to the Premier League, which is ridiculous, because any handball in the box is a handball when it's in the Champions League, but it's not in England. It's, you know, there's ball to hand and hand to ball and all these.
You could definitely have a buddy situation though, where two countries, like we could have the Germans, they could have us, and you could swap over the refs. Like that would work if you did that type of scenario. You can have you're not going to have a lot of biasness then, are you?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't understand why we didn't get Collini in when he was able to come to England, because obviously he had to retire in Italy because they have a rule. And we were 2 years older, I think, so he could have came to England for 2 years. You know, it's frustrating. I like the idea of managers having two calls saying, right, we've seen something, we think that's wrong, you need to look at that. And then VAR becomes redundant for the rest of the game for that manager, and then vice versa for the other manager when he loses his two calls. So you again, it's tactics, isn't it? You've got to make sure you play it at the right time. They do say that apparently VAR has made the game better. It's got more calls right than it's got wrong, but it always seems to be.
But that's not true, though, Baz.
It's not, is it? It's not. But they've got stats to say it does, but it's a load of bollocks.
You've been to a football match where VAR is in the stadium.
They assume that what VAR said is right is right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So the stats are always going to infer that they've got more right, but they haven't necessarily. It's just because they're assuming it is right because VAR said it. It's a cyclic logic.
Yeah. And again, someone mentioned about former players being in VAR room. They said obviously some consciousness bias could come into play then. I've played for that team, so I'm going to give them that decision. I don't like that team because I played against them, didn't like their ground, didn't like the way the fans treated me. So there is that side of it as well, isn't there? So it's hard to get away from it, because unless you get people who don't like football and train them how to referee a game, that's probably the only way that you're going to get an almost a level playing field, isn't it? But even then, you'll still have people going, oh, I like the colour of their shirt, I'm going to support them, and all this sort of stuff. So the tough one, isn't it? Like in cricket, on pitch reviews would need tweaking for football, but again, worth investigating maybe. Yeah, like I say, the review system is brilliant in cricket, and rugby. Rugby's absolutely fantastic with VAR. But in rugby, they have the respect for the referee, don't they?
Yeah, it's a lot slower games. So.
I wasn't quite sure about that. Can you tell me?
Yeah, so it's all about common sense, isn't it? It's all about having a conversation with them. Are they doing that and we don't hear it? You know, because the referees are mic'd up. Yeah, it doesn't, does it? But sometimes when you get the release of a decision, you do hear the referee talking to VAR as well. So they must be doing some sort of it, but are they doing it enough? You know, for me, they're watching the game on TV. They should always be talking to the referee and saying, "Did you see that?" The referee will say, "No, right. Well, we might need to look at this." Or the referee will then say, "Yes, I did see it. I think it was fine." VAR will say, "Right, we'll shut up then." You know, and just let the game flow. But you know, we're just football fans at the end of the day, aren't we? Yeah, we're just football fans at the end of the day who want to see a decent game of football, don't we? Done fairly. So we'll come up with great ideas and that'll never get listened to. Right. Forget about Bruno to City. I don't really care if that happens or not.
Yes, you do.
That was more for Martin if Martin was turning up. 90 million, we'll take it. But because we're running out of time, so I want to talk about the bottom half of the league because, we're in it. West Ham are in it. Your team could be in it, Alan, but you won't tell us who it is. So we want to talk about the bottom half of the table. And again, very, very surprised at some of the teams that are in there. West Ham, Stevie, spent a lot of money. New manager came in. Everyone was expecting, half decent things from West Ham. You've had some good, decent results recently, beating Newcastle, beating Wolves last night. You've climbed 2 points behind us now, and we're sitting in 12th. And I'm thinking, what's happening to this season? Spurs are being Spursy. Man United is still shocking. But no one would have envisioned those teams between 11 to 14 all to be in the bottom half of the table at this stage of the season, would you?
No, it looks unbelievable. When you look at it like that, that could be the top four. Let's be realistic about it.
I wouldn't go that far.
Top four most disappointing clubs to support, more like.
Yeah, maybe between 5th and 9th, maybe at a push.
Yeah, look, we thought we were going to have a great season, but the little worry was that we spent the last, and special mention to Antonio, obviously, after what's happened, but we spent the last 4 or 5 seasons trying to replace him or get a replacement to take over, and we haven't. And then we bought the German Fulkrug, and we spent 22 million on an 18-year-old winger from Brazil who's only come on, I think he's come on twice. And, between the two of them, we've dropped 50 million, and we should have spent that 50 million on a very mobile, adequate replacement for Antonio, and we didn't. That put into consideration, a lot of new players, but a lot of teams have a lot of new players, and then a new coach. It's really taken its time, but as we can see, we've had something like 40 shots in the last 2 games, and we've only scored 3 goals.
Wow.
Now, if you told me last year we'd have 40 shots in 2 games, I'd be like, wow, give it to me with both hands. And to be fair, a lot of possession. But what's happening is when we're moving up the pitch and we're playing across the back, we don't have any ideas. We don't know what to do, because we don't have that focal point up front that you need to build a team around, like we talked about earlier on with Nottingham Forest and Woods. Newcastle with Isak, you move, you create your whole attacking prowess behind that number 9 if that's the way you're going to play. So I think we have the players. I think we're playing the wrong way. I think Lopetegui won't last the month. I think he'll be gone before December. We've got Bournemouth away on Monday night. I think they're going to play. So, although we have had a lot of possession against a lot of teams, but apart from playing Arsenal and Tottenham. But I just think that they're just going to find the gaps. There'll be too much chopping and changing, and we just look out of ideas a lot of time. And lo and behold, the other night, who do we call on? A couple of the oldish guard, I suppose, players that have been there the last 3 or 4 years, Souček and Bone, to get us out of trouble. Wolves were unlucky. They played okay. I don't know if anyone watched the match. It was end to end, but not a lot of quality. They probably should have had a penalty. We rode our luck. You need a bit of luck in this league. We all need it. It's still not too bad. We're still 18th, 22 points from safety. Will we get the 40? Probably. But I don't see Lopetegui seeing the new year, unfortunately, for him.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. First manager to be sacked then, according to Stevie.
Ten Hag got the sack, didn't he?
Oh yeah, well, I don't class him as getting sacked.
And
he was always going. He was always going.
The man from Leicester,
yeah, because obviously Ruud van Nistelrooy's come in. So Ruud van Nistelrooy's come in. There's a good, well done, Stevie, for setting that one up. He's come in and got Leicester to 16th, which is a very good start for him, Mike. And then you've also got Ipswich still just in the bottom 3, but they've been a bit of a surprise package at times. Been very unlucky not to get at least a couple more wins on the board.
So, Baz, do you want to know who the bottom 3 is on the baseline tracker? Because it's not the same.
Yes. No, it's not, no.
I'd love to hear that.
Well,
so, on the baseline tracker, Ipswich are -9. And then you've got Southampton and Everton on -7. So, Everton are in a lot more trouble than even they know they are.
Yeah. because they've still got bigger teams to come in, haven't they? They're not
Wolves
winning
are actually
against
minus
teams around
3,
them.
so they're not. So Leicester are just above Everton on -4, then Wolves on -3. Then it's Brentford on -1. Bearing in mind the earlier discussion about they've had all their home games against the lower teams already. West Ham, by the way, are +6. So on the baseline tracker are looking free and easy. They've had a lot of their hard games already.
That's true. That is true.
But if you look at Leicester, sorry to cut across, like if you look at Leicester, we had 20-something shots, loads of possession. We were all over them for all the game, for most of the game. They got an early goal, got 2 more, and they beat us 3-1. And Ruud van Nistelrooy looks like an absolute genius when we should have beaten them about 4 or 5-0. So it's crazy how something like that can change perception of both Leicester and West Ham now.
Very, very interesting. Mike, who was in the obviously Southampton looked like they're down. Wolves, Ipswich, Palace, Everton, Leicester.
I'd just say Leicester were the same against us. We should have been 3 or 4-0 up before they even got back into it. So there's a bit of a false perception with them at the moment. Ipswich seem to be victims of their own downfall. They do some silly playing out of the back and some stupid errors that allow, particularly if you look at the Bournemouth game, it's a goalie. 1 minute he's amazing and the next minute he's just an idiot. Wolves, who knows Gary O'Neill, but Southampton. So Russell Martin, I've got this theory that Russell Martin's on he lives in Brighton. He's a Brighton lad. He's from Brighton, and I've got this theory that he's on a permanent audition to be like our next manager, and it's never going to happen. And he just keeps playing the ball out from the back, trying to play all this nice football, and he just hasn't got the players to do that. They're that sort of team who just need to mix it up a bit and play different tactics because they're gone. You can see it already. But you look at that bottom there, Everton, I would agree with that they're in trouble this year. The one who would come out of that, Palace would come out of that, West Ham would come out of that. And those sort of bottom 6 teams will be the ones that struggle. But yeah, Southampton definitely gone, without a doubt.
They do look massively. I mean, they play some decent football at times as well. I mean, they should have beat Newcastle at St James's Park and ended up getting beat 1-0 when we went down to 10 men. They were robbed out of a result at our place. I mean, they scored a goal that shouldn't have been disallowed again, VAR. But again, it's another game we should have been 3 or 4-0 up before it even got to that. But if you don't kill these teams off, this is what happens. But yeah, they played lots of good football, but they haven't got the players to follow that through, and they're going to keep getting beat, playing the same way, and inevitably Russell Martin will be sacked, and they bring someone in like a David Moyes or someone like that who will make them harder to beat. But the damage might already be done by them. So it's it's difficult. I don't think any team that's been on that point has survived. So I think the writing's on the wall. Yeah, I agree with that. What about Palace, though? Obviously, your favourite team.
Well, Palace, quite funny enough, have just recently started to get a few results. I think they had a few players that were at like the Euros and, with other competitions, Cup of America. So I think they had a lot of players that didn't really have pre-season. So they kind of been doing a bit of catch up, and without Elise in the team as well, they haven't replaced. It's been a bit of a sort of poor start for them, but recently I think they've lost 1 in 6 or something. I might be wrong in that, but it's something like that. So I think you'll start to see them pick up results here and there. Hopefully not on Sunday, because I'll be going away from social media if they do for a week. But yeah,
I love it.
I do think they've got enough players in their team to move up the table without a doubt.
Yeah, Palace +1 on baseline tracker already, so not looking that much in danger anyway.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Not against the teams around. I just think there's something not right at Palace at the moment, and they are going to struggle to buy anyone unless they sell someone. So is Marguerite going to go to Newcastle or even to Liverpool? I've heard it'd be very interesting. But they've sold a lot of players and not replaced them. There's Wharton, I believe, and Man City are looking at. You know, if they lose a couple of players and don't invest well, they could put themselves in big trouble. Just by like Wolves have. Yeah, Wolves have done exactly that. They've sold what, about 200 million worth of talent over 2 windows. Is that about right? And look where they are now because they haven't invested it properly, which is absolutely crazy. Because Wolves at one point were great at finding these Portuguese talents, and then watching the world satellite in Neto and the likes of them. So very, very interesting what's going on at Wolves at the moment. Didn't expect them to be second bottom. Nowhere near there. But again, like I said, they've sold too many players, and this is what happens. Let's put you next on the line before we go. Stevie, bottom 3.
Great question. I remember last year we said something similar, and I think I got 2 teams wrong. I think from anyone kind of that's going to be 17th up are lucky that there's 3 teams that are worse. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like anyone's going to survive because they were brilliant. They're going to survive because 3 teams have just been really, really poor and really unlucky. Now, Ipswich have been really good, and you can see that they've drawn 6 games, which means they're a little bit harder to beat than the other 2, but they're not getting, like, you need to be trying to win a couple of home games. You know, can Palace win a few home games? Definitely. Can Everton win a few home games? Probably. You know, Leicester, you know, they were very lucky against us. You know, when is the new manager bounce gonna dry out, or will it keep going? Your head says the same 3 are going to go down, but then you kind of go, I think Leicester or Everton might get in trouble and might get sucked down with Ipswich. But like 5 points at this stage is massive. You know what I mean? Like Ipswich have only won 1 game. So, you know, you have to say the 3. I know I'm dragging the answer. I'm dragging the arse out of this answer. But I'm just I'm thinking out loud. Like, I'll be lying in bed now thinking about this. The same thing, what I'm saying, is going to be going on in my head tonight in bed. And this is what I do with meals. Look, I'm going to say the bottom 3 are going to go, but I think Ipswich are going to just be like maybe a point off the team in 17th. That's what I'm saying.
Oof, that was very detailed.
Yeah, sorry about that. Dragged it. Okay, electricity's going and everything because I've been on so long. Wi-Fi, the whole lot.
Mike?
Well, I said the 3 teams that came up would be the ones that go. I still think that it'll be that. I guess the Wolves situation is Gary O'Neill probably won't last much longer, and it depends who they get in to replace him. But I would still go with Southampton, Ipswich, and Leicester to be the ones.
I'm surprised at Leicester now with Ruud van Nistelrooy. He's
I just
like a little bit.
He has, but as Steve said, new manager bounce. It happens. How many times do we see that? And in the 2 games I've seen, they should have lost quite heavily, and the teams didn't kill them off, and they've like got results out of that. That won't go on forever, you know.
Well, I don't know. They're playing Newcastle on Saturday. Thanks, Mike.
I mean, after next week.
There's a chance, honestly, that we'll get beat on Saturday. It wouldn't surprise me. Alan, who are you free to go down? Looking at the table now.
Yeah, I think Ipswich will go down, partly because of what was just been said about the goalkeeper. Was brilliant half a game, and then 2 or 3 disasters. Still means 2 or 3 goals conceded. So and they are bottom of the baseline tracker. So Ipswich to go down, and Southampton as well. I just can't see them getting out of it. And the third one, I'm going to say Everton.
Ooh, you're going off your baseline tracker,
because,
right?
as I say, I think they're in a lot worse shape than the table indicates now, because they played a lot of the games they should have been getting points from already. So they've got, by definition, therefore, a harder remaining set of fixtures. I think Leicester will scrabble their way out of it. They probably will be close, but maybe the 17th. And I think Wolves will pick up. I think Wolves will have they've got a good run of fixtures in their future, and I think they will pick up, whether it's with Gary O'Neill or with somebody else. But I think they'll get out of it. So there you go. It's Southampton Everton for me.
Oof, I would love to see Everton go down. It's not like we hate them. It's just I don't like Jordan Pickford. And I think their fans need a realization that they do need to go down once and for all, because they've never been relegated out of top flight football. Wow. So I think they need to feel that pain to understand what West Ham have had to go through, Newcastle have had to go through, Leicester have had to go through, Southampton, Ipswich, Wolves, all being relegated. Nice to see Man United get relegated again, but I can't see that happening. I'm going Southampton. I'm going. I don't know, the Ipswich with Delap up front as well. I still think they've got potentially a match winner in there. And I think that's where Palace are sort of struggling at the moment. They might have some decent fixtures coming up, but I still don't fancy Palace. I fancy Leicester over Everton. So I'm going Southampton, Wolves, and Everton to go down. They're my three as the table stands now. Completely different at the start of the season, to be honest with you. But I think I had Southampton. I think I had Ipswich rock bottom, Southampton second bottom, and Everton third bottom. So there you go. But I think Ipswich just might be that surprise package and might stay up with Leicester. I'll be surprised if it happens, but you just never know. Right, before we end the show, guys, don't forget about our sponsors, Football Prizes. They've got an absolute out of the bag competition going on. It's not that one. That one ended tonight. It's this one. Alan Shearer signed, custom-led, framed Newcastle shirt. But not only that, there's an Andy Cole signed boot you can win, a Peter Beardsley top, a Gaza shirt, a Rob Air shirt. It's unbelievable prizes. $3.95 a ticket, 499 tickets available, ends on the 24th of December. So get your tickets while you can. Link is in the description. And don't forget about Diacro. Link is in the description for them. 20% off for all our viewers. They do amazing Newcastle clobber, but they also do loads of other stuff. So give them a look. And 20% off for everybody who watches this channel. We didn't get a chance to obviously say this, but Saudi Arabia are now the World Cup hosts in 2034. I wonder how many times until 2034 this is going to be mentioned on every single Newcastle game. You know it's going to happen. You know it's going to happen. And to all the Eddie Howe haters, I just like putting this up. I think it's a great picture. But there you go. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for coming on, Alan, Mike, Steve. You've been absolutely phenomenal as always. It's been a great conversation about football, which is what we do this for. It's just to have a good chat because we can't go down to the pub and do it, so we do it on here. And hopefully, Stevie, I will see you next year at West Ham at the London Stadium. Fingers crossed.
Same season in a few months, my man. Let's do it. Fingers
crossed. This will be the this will be the wrap of the Premier League show. Next one will be back in January. I've got a few ideas bouncing around in my head. One of them is going to be with Alan. I want us for this show to start looking at doing a team of the week using your stats for the other 14.
We want more stats.
Just the team of the week for the other 14, none of the top 6 included. We want to try and do that for the show going forward as well. So it's a bit of homework for everyone to do as well. But thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you on Friday night for the look ahead to the Leicester game. Take care till then.
Ciao.